Has wokeism caused harm to the political climate?
Dude, if destiny sweeps for wokeism, I'm gonna lose my mind. And the reason why I'm gonna lose my mind is because, like, wokeism is arguably destroying the left-wing coalition right now. And it's because the annoying progressives are on the back foot, for sure. Like, they're nowhere near as culturally relevant now as they were like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But to pretend that Hassan Piker and Denims and Frogan and the Twitch aristocracy and shit, I'm trying to think of who else. It's mostly Hassan Piker. But pretending that, like, the lefties haven't totally fucked up, like, national discourse in online politics is, if he starts sweeping for it, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. Because that's bullshit. That's just, like, straight bullshit.
Do you want to go first again?
How about you take a positive position, Konstantin? How about you say, hey, not only are progressives and leftists incredibly fucking annoying to the point that they made pop culture insufferable for a decade, but also it's impossible for you to deny that woke progressivism has done damage to our political discourse, considering you're at war with it every single day. And despite being a wildly liberal and progressive person yourself, you are cannibalized as the fascistic Nazi piece of shit because you're not a socialist and you're not sufficiently anti-racist.
Yeah, sure. My question is going to be the exact same as the last one. How do we define wokeism? And can we name like 3 woke policies that we think are destroying Western culture?
You're a participant in this debate, so why don't you define them?
Well, the thing is, I can't, because your guys' definitions for everything change at all points in time. The issue, that's always the frustrating thing when it comes to fighting.
Who's us guys?
Conservatives.
I'm not a conservative.
I know you say you're not, but the conservative identification of wokeism and the idea that wokeism, whatever that
forget about conservatism. Let's talk about wokeness. So what would be your definition of wokeness?
My definition of wokeness is annoyingly progressive, and I think it definitely captures it. Is it progressive? Is it annoying? Then it's woke.
In the broadest sense, usually it's social issues that are very, very far left of the norm, I guess. But these positions in the United States, at least, tend to be held by...
Such as?
It might be certain things related to... I mean, trans people are obviously the hot go-to topic for everybody. It might be things specifically related to trans people. It might be things related to... they call it CRT, now they call it... Or there was affirmative action, then CRT, then DEI. It might be people who are socialists, about the economy, or whatever that means to people. It really depends on where you're at, who would consider what woke, or what the conservative boogeyman of the day is.
I don't know what the conservative point of view. So your point of view is that wokeness is about trans people and DEI?
That seems to be the case when I look at conservatives.
So that's your definition?
I don't define things as a wokeism. It seems like a really vapid, stupid definition to me. I would just talk about the issue or the policy itself.
I guess your issue is with the topic of our debate then.
Well, no, because I think that you obsessively talk about wokeism, so it's probably a good thing for us to have a discussion on.
I'm asking you to define it so that instead of continually asking me questions and then pretending not to understand my answers, we actually address your argument. So
if you feel like there's an answer I don't understand, you can feel free to ask me to explain your answer. I can do it with ease. They're very simple. You only need the cognitive power of like a 9-year-old to understand them. So
your definition of wokeness is? Again, just coming back to it. So we're clear about what we're discussing. The median view on social beliefs, the things that are to the furthest left, or the most progressive, the most college student-y, young things, they tend to be around like gender things or minority issues or LGBTQI, whatever status. These tend to be like things that people identify as woke. So what we're discussing in this section of the debate is whether far-left politics and progressivism has ruined society. Is that the discussion?
Not only do I agree with that assessment, I think it's hard to argue that it hasn't. Now, I think the right wing is partially responsible for this because they prop up the most extreme elements of the left. That way they can spar with it. But just because they have propped them up as a cultural boogeyman does not mean that the far left doesn't have disproportionate influence, particularly in online politics.
Discussion?
Yeah, sure.
What would you mean?
The question was on wokeism.
Right.
The issue is...
And I got you to define it as far-left progressivism.
Yes.
So...
Insofar as I would define it, I don't see it as a major threat, at least to the United States, because I don't think that the people that tend to hold these views have any real political power. It tends to be college kids and people on Twitter. But conservatives are very concerned about this, and they talk about these issues all the time, and then they use them to power their policies that end up being even more regressive than the super woke stuff was progressive, because it wasn't really manifesting in a real way anyway. And now I have a country where half the states don't really have the ability to get an abortion for women because people thought that every 4-year-old was being forcibly transitioned to another gender. It's my issue.
Well, that's your country and your issue. But just coming back to our definitions so that we can know what we're discussing. What you're addressing is, has far-left progressive politics had a negative impact on our society? That's how you understand this discussion, correct?
Am I going to say yes here, and you're going to go, I'm glad you agree that wokeism is far left?
No.
Yeah, I guess that's, yes, that would be my understanding of this discussion,
Okay.
yes.
So,
yes.
Good. Now we know what we're actually discussing. So, in terms of its impact, I mean, one of the most obvious things, and I brought up...
What is your definition of wokeism?
I agree with you. I agree with your definition.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think it's okay to agree on a definition to have the discussion, right?
That's why I did it, so that we could agree on the definition.
Oh, okay. It felt a little bit more passive-aggressive than that, but my bad.
Well, that's your bad. Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I've worked out the tricks that you play, and so I've trapped you in your own logic.
And to be clear, the trick that I just played was asking you for the definition of a term.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
That's
my bad.
right.
I
That's
know that
right.
we don't like that here.
Exactly
okay, my
right.
bad. Okay, go ahead.
That's exactly right. Because what you do is you don't define it yourself, so that you can then argue with my definition for half an hour, and so we can't have the actual debate. Now be quiet, and
I'll define my terms if you want. Well, I'm only going to be quiet.
Sounds like
define
my
my terms
marriage.
if you want
Be
me
quiet.
to. But woke is
Be
the term you
quiet.
guys
It
use.
took me about 10 minutes to get you to define woke. I'm glad we did it. Now we can have
Now
the
you're gonna
actual
use my
discussion.
definition. I'm glad I could
Now
provide
we
you
can
with
have
one.
the
Go
actual
for it.
discussion.
Okay.
Now we can have the actual discussion. So if your understanding of the question is, has far-left progressive politics made our societies worse? I completely agree with your definition, and I agree with the premise of the question that it has made things worse for a number of reasons. I mean, the trans thing became a big talking point because it's so ridiculous, not because it's so hugely actually impactful on society, although I do think a small number of children being given puberty blockers and an even smaller number of children being given gender transition surgery is a terrible thing that's happened. I think more broadly, though, I mean, one of the most obvious examples is we now have a society which has, I mean, it's not codified and it's not expressed in, in the, like, no one says publicly we now discriminate against these groups of people, unless occasionally they do. So, for example, the Royal Air Force in this country, when they were in a recruiting drive, they were really struggling to get pilots. And there was a woman there who got fired from the Royal Air Force because she refused to go along with the policy. Her supervisor said to her, "We're not hiring any more useless straight white men." She said, "I don't agree with this policy, it's discriminatory," and she was fired. We've had a system of anti-male, anti-white.
Can I just ask a quick question? So if I were to look that up, the Royal Air Force had a policy of not hiring straight white men.
I'm not finished yet.
Is that true?
I'm not finished yet.
Okay. I have a feeling it's not, but okay.
So this is something you can look up. It was covered extensively in the news in this country. Probably wasn't covered that well on Wikipedia where you did the research, but...
No, but on The Sun and all of your favorite publications, I'm sure they talked about it a lot.
No, actually it was covered extensively across the mainstream
And what they
media.
covered was that the Royal Air Force was not hiring straight white men. Well, you seem to respond to some things, but not others. So that wasn't the policy. I can tell because you're not answering that.
That was the policy that was pursued by the Royal Air Force. It was revealed by this whistleblower who was fired for revealing it. The BBC in this country has internships that are not available to white people. We effectively have created a system of passive, tacit, sometimes open discrimination against different groups of people. And one of the reasons that the sort of reactionary sentiment, which you try and paint me as representing, which I don't, is rising in this country and rising quite quickly, including ethno-nationalist sentiment, is because of this. And the reason I opposed wokeness from the very beginning and far-left progressivism from the very beginning was that it was obvious to me that the number one consequence of pursuing radical left-wing progressivism and racial essentialism of this kind would be that the majority population would begin to pursue identity politics for itself. If you discriminate against white men and say so openly, it's going to be a very short period of time before white men look at that and say, well, if we're now picking people for jobs based on skin color, I am the oppressed minority now, or I'm the oppressed majority now. We need to look after my interests. And the reason you see the reactionary forces rising, both in America, in the rest of Europe, and in this country, is precisely because they've been pushed into this corner by woke leftists. And that is one of the major ways that this movement has damaged our society, as I predicted all along.
So I would say the least impressive thing about conservative predictions is that typically what they'll do is they will build their own enemies, they will cry about the enemies, and then when they manage to convince everybody else that those enemies are real, and then those people react against those enemies, they try to say that, well, it was the enemies in the beginning that caused this particular problem to come about. And I guess the issue that I have is, when it comes to woke-related stuff, it's hard to find ever, like, what are the particular DEI policies or affirmative action policies that we're talking about. It's always some vague allusion to airlines don't want to hire white pilots, or they lower their standards for black pilots, or these things that tend to not exist when you actually dig into them. Now, I don't know, maybe it is the case that the Royal Air Force actually had a policy of not hiring straight white men.
It did, yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. I'm curious about that. I have a feeling when I look into it, it's going to be completely untrue, like most of the stuff that you bring it up. But I'll look into it. Maybe it was true. And, you know, if it is, I would say that's not a good thing, that you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. Okay. But I guess the issue I have is, when we talk about magnitude, I think you said earlier that sometimes people fixate on these issues a little bit too much, but it's because they're such common sense issues. When I look at the United States right now, and I think how many trans people are there, how many people are doing stuff related to trans people, the number of people is incredibly small. It's like 1%. And the idea that that would somehow cause so much of a population to become reactionary that, as of 30 minutes ago, I'm pretty sure Iran has tried to bomb like 7 different countries because we have a...
I don't like this, because I know Steven is not a part of this, because Steven actually got banned from Twitch for being anti-trans women in sports. But you have to understand how much of online discourse was about trans people between 2019 and 2021. And you also have to understand, like, the fever that was surrounding that topic, where effectively, like, you had to have aggressively trans people onto your panel, or else you were a bigot. And then everybody, including Christian conservatives who don't even believe in transness as a concept, had to use the correct pronouns, or else they were banned from the panel. And then not just that, you had to kind of sit there and listen to trans advocates say that the state needs to enable gender transition for minors. If you oppose this, you're a transphobe. And then if you're in a state where transition is not enforced or available to teenagers, then it is the moral right of teenagers to synthesize hormones at home and to consume those hormones in order to achieve their own gender transition, and or they should use black market sources in order to do this. And if you don't believe me, just go watch old Demon Mama debates. Just go check out like old Keffels debates. You understand that like Keffels and Demon Mama and a host of other trans creators were advocating for this aggressively within Twitch and YouTube politics and YouTube, and they only got in trouble after they got like looked up by mainstream news sources. Not just that, okay? But one of the craziest fucking things that Brianna Wu, and I still consider Brianna Wu a friend, by the way. I still think Brianna Wu is like a really well-intended person, despite whatever political differences I have with her. But one of the craziest fucking things that ever happened in front of me, and I was so shocked I didn't even know how to react, was that she casually brought up that she was friends with and saw nothing wrong with the trans woman who took so much estrogen that she induced breastfeeding and then was breastfeeding her adopted child as a natal male. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I would need to see the number one, I don't even know why we're going down this route in the fucking first place. Like, formula is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with formula. Plenty of babies are formula babies. But then number two, you're going to have to like study this and show me the stats of inducing milk in natal males and breastfeeding children from a natal male is just as normal as, and like healthy for the child as breast milk from a natal female. And if there's like weird hormonal shit, like let's say that you give them way too much estrogen or way too much testosterone via this process, then like what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you risking the health of your child to virtue signal on social media? And I kind of don't like this attitude. So Fresh Cake and Harstar, like, listen, I get where, you know, Harstar I know is kind of like a lib progressive, whatever. But like, why is that based? Why is it based to prioritize the health of, like deprioritize the health of your child in order to virtue signal breastfeeding your child as a trans woman? That's fucking crazy to me. Like, I almost guarantee you neither one of you twats have kids. Anyways, making a real point before we get back into the content. I think it's the state. Okay? The reason why conservatives freak the fuck out is because of the state. Because the way that it is now, particularly in libertarian and conservative states, is that you are, not only are you responsible for your children, you have broad swath, like broad sway and broad authority over your children until they're adults. Until your kid turns 18, he's not technically your property, but you can kind of treat him like your property. They have to do what you're saying, and as long as you're not being extremely physically or emotionally abusive, then the state can't fuck with your parental rights. And so to have the state say, in progressive and blue states and cities, that if your child has persistent gender dysphoria, you must go to a psychiatrist. You must listen to said psychiatrist. You must assist with their social transition and their physical transition as a teenager. And this was compelled in states, weirdly enough, this was compelled in Texas, not just California. There was, I forget what it was, but there was a Texan parent who had a trans child who refused the gender transition. He actually said, like, fuck you, I'm not participating in this. This is my son, not my daughter. My wife has some kind of weird Munchausen syndrome where she's taken our child and fed into their gender dysphoria and effectively forced transition them. The state is fucking crazy for siding with my Munchausen wife, and I'm not going to be part of this. Now, the truth is that I think the kid actually was experiencing persistent gender dysphoria, and the kid was waffling back and forth on whether or not they were really trans, depending on what parent they were around. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that guy was like civilly and criminally punished for being in contempt of court for not like accepting the gender transition. And so that's the question, is like, if the state compels gender transition for your teenage son or daughter and you resist the state due to religious beliefs, does the state have the right or ability to hold you criminally or civilly accountable for like emotional abuse or distress against your teenage trans child?
President who is a madman who is going on a rampage against the entire world insofar as trade and bombs goes, I just can't in my mind rationalize how so many of these smart people I'll say in the center like you who say, well, I can obviously identify that this is a problem. Why don't you ever identify any of these super obvious problems on the right, or any of the super obvious problems that are reactionary to the other things that were reactionary, especially when the issues in the United States on the right are represented through every single pylon of power that the conservatives have, and on the left they're in colleges and on Twitter and Facebook and sometimes in AI world on Sora.
This is an article from Sky News. Could you just read out what it says, please?
So I see the AI summary here is applicants.
Read out the headline.
Well, I don't know if there's a headline or if this is a...
Read out the headline.
Okay, so it says applicants seeking to join RAF described as useless white male pilots in bid to hit impossible diversity targets. Just to be clear, just so I can understand.
Thank you.
Is this headline the same as no straight white men were hired? Or they had a policy of not hiring straight white... But wait, I'm just so curious. Do you understand the difference between somebody not being hired because they're white, because I'm not going to sit, if you're going to ask me, like, do you think there were ever racist people or even against white people? Of course there are. But you understand there's a difference between the entire Air Force having a policy of not hiring straight white men versus, I guess there was an email where some straight white candidates were skipped over. I don't even know if it was because they didn't meet qualifications or not. They used white men to describe them, but they also called them useless. I don't know if it was because they were white or not. You know there's a difference between those two things, right?
So you don't know this story?
Do you know there's a difference between those two things or no?
Yes, I do. Now,
okay, thank you. Okay, gotcha. Because I was asking for evidence of mine, but you gave me that. So like I said initially, I had a feeling if I looked this up, it wasn't going to be what you presented it as. Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay. So you just denied the existence of this and you questioned it.
I did not deny the existence of that, but go ahead.
Stop talking.
You seem to have a lot of trouble following what I'm saying.
Stop talking.
Okay.
Look, the only way to have a conversation is when people talk in turns.
No, it's not. The only way to have a conversation is when two people are making a good faith effort to understand each other. My question was, did the RAF have a policy of not hiring straight white men?
Yes.
You showed me an email that said there were applicants that were rejected that were called useless white male pilots or whatever.
They rejected applicants in a bid to hit diversity targets, which means they discriminated against white men in favor of other groups.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that in this particular email, but that doesn't mean that they were not hiring any straight white men.
I didn't say they were not hiring any straight white men. I said they were discriminating against them in favor of other people to hit diversity targets, which were described by the people who were charged with recruiting them as impossible to hit. In other words, they were deliberately undermining both the efficacy and the fair treatment of people in their hiring policies because of DEI.
Okay, so this...
Do you get it now?
The position you have now, yes. And that sounds more realistic, that there might have been a hiring policy that favored some groups of people that weren't white over the white ones to cause them to get hired when it might have been in a blind trial the white people would have been hired otherwise. Yes. Do you understand that that's significantly different than you saying the RAF had a policy of not hiring straight white pilots? First of all, I don't know what straight had to do with... Are you bi? Do you get like a special application on the...
Well, I'm sure you'd want to know the answer to that question, but
well, I wouldn't because I would never become British. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I think look, this is why I brought it up, because the idea of a conversation is good faith, but if you question anything that I bring up that you don't know anything about, and then say, well, I don't believe that this happened, and I present you evidence that it did happen, and then you still continue to deny it, I don't see how we can have an actual debate. Now, I never said the RAF hires 0 white pilots. What I said is the policy of discriminating against white men, which has been rife in the rest of society, has created the situation where a lot of people rightly, understandably at least, feel antagonistic about it. That was one of the biggest threats with wokeness, and that is one of the biggest challenges where we are. All your points about Trump and all the rest of it, I don't see how it's relevant, and I think we're going to have a section on Trump coming up. I made the point, I think, about trans, that I think trans, I mean, the insanity of some of the things we've been asked to believe, which is like, you know, if you say you're a woman, you automatically become a woman. I think people rightly balk against that because it's ridiculous. Doesn't mean it's the #1 issue. I've never said it's the #1 issue. In fact, I pointed out it's quite a minor issue in terms of the number of people affected by it. But
I'm just curious, in terms of your shows, of all the social issues you talk about, do you think that the trans stuff is at the top 3?
Well, I don't think we've talked about trans for like a year and a half, maybe 1 or 2 episodes in a year and a half.
Okay, do you feel like for conservatives in general in the United States, do you think that trans is one of the top issues that they talk about? On all the reform stuff that I looked at, trans was listed on a ton of it. It was in the manifesto.
I'm not a Republican conservative in America, so I don't know what they talk about. It's up to them.
Well, who would you have voted for in the last American election?
Who would I have voted for? Donald Trump, for sure.
Okay, so I don't know. Okay.
Doesn't mean that you're a conservative Republican.
Of course it does. Definitionally so. You're voting for the conservative Republican candidate.
So if you present me with a small pile of shit and a big pile of shit, and I pick the small pile of shit, you go, oh, you love shit. No.
If the vote is between a guy who resembles the furthest right you can be insofar as how they conceptualize the government
and a guy who has no brain, yeah, I'll go with the guy with a brain.
So
yeah.
Kamala Harris.
That's actually amazing. Because, you know, like Pisco and Hutch and all that kind of stuff. Ever since the police shooting stuff, they're like, oh, yeah, you're not a Democrat. Don't worry about it. We don't want you on our team. But back during the PV days, they were like, oh, you're advocating for Kamala Harris and you don't hate black people and trans people. You must be a progressive. And I was like, no, I still have deeper debates that or deeper beliefs than that, but I do think that you know, I do think that Kamala Harris is the less big pile of shit. And so this analogy of Konstantin Kisin thinking that Trump is the less big pile of shit. Number one, he's just like objectively wrong, but that's okay. We'll allow him to have his subjectively incorrect opinion. And and then that's exactly how I feel about Kamala. It's like, oh, you voted for a Democrat, you must be a Democrat. And it's like, no, I voted for the smaller shit sandwich to eat. Like Donald Trump, massive shit sandwich to eat. Kamala Harris, significantly smaller shit sandwich I'm gonna have to eat. I don't like shit sandwiches, but if you give me a choice, and it's a binary choice, particularly in electoral politics, between eating a large shit sandwich or eating a small shit sandwich, I'm gonna eat the smaller one. It just is what it is. God, that was funny. All right, anyways.
The person who was a DA in California, who was Attorney General in California, who served as Vice President, who was a Senator in California, versus Donald Trump, who brags about taking and passing 3 cognitive tests in a month. The dumb person is Kamala Harris there.
Look, I just explained to you that when you make choices between things, it's not because you necessarily love the choice you're making. If you're forced to choose between 2 things, you choose the one that is the lesser evil, effectively.
Sure, I'm just curious.
I agree with a lot of Donald Trump's foreign policy.
Sure. Loopy Doopy says, Counterpoints, I accidentally put mint oil in my third eye. Are you talking about your butt or the center of your forehead?
Of course you do. I know you do, because you have a conservative view on foreign policy. Over the past 5 years, so you do this thing where you're like, well, I have to choose between 2 things. When you've had this same choice...
That's what an election is. It's a choice between 2 things.
Well, not in the UK. You can vote between a lot of things. We have 2 parties in the US, but that's okay. I can always educate you in your political system. It's fine. But so my question is, of all these things that you have to choose between, at what case in the last 5 years have you leaned to the left on and would vote for the left on versus the right?
I voted for the left. I voted for liberal Democrat.
Dude, back during the trans discourse, man. Sorry for interrupting, but grassroots with the $20. We want trans inclusionary radical misogyny. Dude, I was a term. Trans inclusionary radical misogyny. Dude, I was an unironic term. I was like, we don't hate trans women because they're trans. We hate them because they're women. And then whenever the sports came up and trans women came up and or trans men, excuse me, competing in combat sports, we were like, yeah, we want trans men in combat. Wait, we want trans women? Yeah, we want trans women in combat sports and football because we want to watch them beat the shit out of AFABs. And we think it would be more entertaining as a sport. There was this, I loved that part of it because everybody was so fucking mad whenever you embrace trans inclusionary radical misogyny. Because the lefties were mad because it's obvious you were shitposting. The righties were mad because you were shitposting at their expense. The people who wanted genuine social prescriptions were mad because they thought you were joking about it, but then you might be serious about some aspects of what you were talking about. And then also the feminists were mad because you were saying that males are a superior sex and men are a superior gender. It was so awesome. It was like the perfect centrist grenade to just roll in the middle of a conversation. Oh, holy shit, I miss trans inclusionary radical misogyny. That's gotta be, trans inclusionary radical misogynist hate trans women because they're women. Oh, God. There's another t-shirt I need to make.
At the last election, and it's likely that I will again at the next one. I just told you this.
What about in terms of supporting major issues? How many lib left candidates, I guess, do you guys have on your show, or do you talk to or support?
As many as will come on.
Does that mean 0? Or
No.
how many? Okay, because I know, like, I know Faraj has been on a ton. I know you've done a lot of content with Goodwin.
Okay, they're not far left, right? But we've
correct.
also
They're right, yeah.
We've also
My
had
point,
the
yeah.
co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, who's currently in prison for blocking roads, on the show. We've had Aaron Bastani, who's the co-founder of Novara Media, a far-left news organization in this country. We've had a bunch of. I mean, I could go down the list for ages if you want, if that's what you like.
I've seen like the top 10 lists of like the people that you've invited the most on are all generally
We had
right-leaning
comedian
people, yeah.
Mark Steele, who's a lefty. We had Deborah Francis White from the
Sure.
Guilty
So I'm
Feminist
guessing
podcast.
when you say lefty for these people, they're populist lefties that think that the whole institution
Jonah boy, I don't care who Leah Thomas is, who let women in the pool. Fuck, we have fun.
is rotted and they don't support actively. So the guy that you just described, is he like a Labor voter? Would he support Labor? Has he supported Labor?
Which guy? Mark Steele. He's a lifelong Labor voter,
Okay,
yeah.
well then you get credit for that one, I guess. Okay. I haven't seen every episode of Trigonometry, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, maybe you should stop opining about who we have on then if you haven't seen every episode of Trigonometry.
I don't think I should have to watch every single episode of Trigonometry to have a rough idea.
You should know who we have on the show regularly before you make a judgment.
I have a decent idea.
No, you don't. You've just demonstrated that you don't.
I haven't seen you. I demonstrate. I don't know every single person that goes on.
Right.
Like you haven't made a Twitter video saying, "Okay, well, call me left wing now." You did make one saying, "Well, fine, I'll be right wing now." Like,
So
clearly you lean in a certain direction.
No,
clearly
no.
people perceive you. Why do you think everybody perceives you as being right wing then? If you're so centrist, or you
Why
lean
does the
left or right?
BBC think I'm right wing?
Why does everybody, on my side at least, everybody perceives you as being right wing?
Because it's convenient for you, as you've demonstrated in the course of this conversation.
In what way?
I'm about to explain if you just stop talking.
I hope you actually explain.
I will.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay. Can you be quiet while I do?
My mic is down.
Okay, good.
Stop filibustering.
So it's convenient to you in exactly the way that you've demonstrated throughout this conversation, where when I make a good point about anything, you say, you conservatives, and then you pivot to talking about Republicans in America, because it suits you, because then you can argue against things you came here prepared to argue against, instead of arguing with what I'm actually saying.
What is a point you feel like I haven't? First of all, I'm pretty sure the debate topics were related to America. Number one.
Were they?
They were. Number one. That's okay. Number two, what is a question that you feel like you've said that I accused you of being a conservative and then I pivoted and I didn't respond to your point?
Every single thing we've discussed.
Name one of them then.
Every single thing we've discussed.
So you can't think of a single one. What did I not respond to for immigration? You didn't bring up a point. You said a bunch of descriptions. You're like, well, this is true. And then that was it.
You keep talking over me, which means we're not actually having a discussion.
Because I'm asking you for an example and you're trying to
giving you
filibuster.
one. I'm about to give you one if you just stop interrupting.
One point that I didn't respond to.
Can you just stop interrupting?
Go ahead. Give me the point.
Can you just stop interrupting?
I'm not even interrupting. I'm waiting for you to finish.
Not interrupting means when I say something, you don't talk after that. Can you do that now?
Okay. Can I forget? Okay, go ahead.
There you go. On every single thing that we've discussed, immigration, national identity.
Just one thing. You're not having this.
You dumb bitch! Shut the fuck up! This is where I spurg out, man. Because Destiny, and I do this too, by the way. My fucking wife hates it when I get in this mood. But when I get in this mood, I'm just like, I'm ready to needle. So you say something stupid, and I'm like, and just like rip it apart as they're getting it out of their mouth, and then they keep talking, and then you just keep needling them because it's fun. But seriously, he did just agree to shut the fuck up. And I know this guy does like to monologue. Yes, no, this guy wants to monologue. Fuck him. Okay, you're there for a debate or a conversation. Let him complete a concept so you can shred the concept. You understand that this happens with Andrew Wilson? You understand that, like, every time that I've ever debated Andrew Wilson, every time I've had a conversation with Andrew Wilson, I start to do the Destiny needling thing because he's saying something incorrect. And then he says, can you stop interrupting me? And I know that if I keep interrupting him, the conversation is going to devolve into dog shit and it's going to be unlistenable. And so what I do is I let him ramble uninterrupted for 3 to 5 minutes, but I'm taking notes the entire time about what he's saying that I think is incorrect. And then when it's my opportunity to respond, and he interrupts me because he's ready for the bad faith debate, I say, hey man, I just gave you 3 to 5 minutes to talk uninterrupted. I actually did not talk until you were done talking. I have notes and I would like to get through them. Can I talk? And every single time Andrew Wilson has been like, yeah, fair enough. because he knows it would be optically bad to constantly insist on uninterrupted talking time, but then not return the favor. He would look like a total see you next Tuesday, right? So once again, like, I get it. You guys want the dunks, you want the memes, you want the elbows. And on top of that, Konstantin does seem pressed. But when you go back and you actually analyze what was talked about in the earlier conversation, they did talk about a 20% increase in British population. They did talk about the nature of those immigrants. They did talk about, well, they didn't even get to the definition of national identity. I would have loved to have talked about that. But we never got there because they were too busy fucking interrupting, or Destiny was too busy interrupting and needling him. Now, that doesn't say, that's not to say that Destiny needs to sit there and take it like a cuck. But what Destiny needs to do, in my humble opinion, is he needs to let him go down on a yap. He needs to take notes. He needs to track approximately how long he took to do his yap. And he said, now it's my turn. Now I'm going to shred your ideas and call them retarded for the next 3 to 5 minutes. And here's how they're dumb as fuck. That would be substantially better to somebody who doesn't already like Destiny.
You're not having a conversation. I guess I didn't expect you to check out this early, but I'm asking, is there a single point that you feel like I haven't responded to with substance, and you're saying everything because you realize you don't have an answer for that?
If you want to have this conversation by yourself, you're welcome to. But
I feel like I am.
You are, yeah.
I know I am. Yes, I know I am. I feel that way. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the copy-pasted talking points, and I can't get an actual answer out of you for anything. I can give you better answers if you're looking for them. Yeah.
You either got to banter back and forth, or you have to take the talking stick, one or the other.
It's crazy to me that you guys cry about wokeism and snowflakes and all this stuff so much, but like, you guys do it all the time. You made.
Hey, Dizzle says Destiny is asking for one specific example, though he keeps giving word salads. No, he was giving the example, and then Destiny interrupted. You guys aren't paying attention to the words. He asked for an example, and he's like, the entire fucking conversation. And then Destiny's like, what, you don't have one example? And then he started talking about, well, when we were talking about culture and national identity, and then when he was saying culture and national identity, Steven interrupted him again, which is why he's pissed. Listen, you guys can be Destiny fans. I don't care. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm a Destiny fan. And by the way, if Destiny started doing this to me, I would just spurg out and yell at him. You guys have seen. He never gave an example. I just gave you the example, you dumbass. I just told you the example. Yes, it was an example. Oh. You're going to make me rewind? Fine. I got no place to be. We're going to rewind.
Okay. Well, maybe you should stop opining about who we have on then if you haven't seen every episode of Trigger.
Don't worry. We'll watch it again.
I don't think I should have to watch every single episode of Trigonometry to have a rough idea.
I'm going to write this down in sequence, okay? You're a conservative. You can't substantiate that. You have a... Why does everyone think you're conservative? And your guests point to you being conservative. This is a series of invectives that Steven is using in order to paint Konstantin as a center-right guy, which he is, by the way, and he's being a pussy about. But that's not the argumentation that we're arguing about. So let's go through it.
Before you make a judgment.
I have a decent idea.
No, you don't. You've just demonstrated that you don't.
I haven't seen you. I demonstrated. I don't know every single person that goes on.
Right.
Like, you haven't made a Twitter video saying, "Okay, well, call me left wing now." You did make one saying, "Well, fine, I'll be right wing now." Like,
So
there's clearly you lean in a certain direction. Clearly, people perceive you.
Okay, you made a video saying, "Fine, I'll be right wing now." Which I think I watched, by the way.
Everybody perceives you as being right wing then, if you're so centrist or you
Why
lean
does
left
the
or right?
BBC think I'm right wing?
Why does everybody, on my side at least, everybody perceives you as being right wing?
Because it's convenient for you, as you've demonstrated in the course of this conversation.
In what way?
I'm about to explain if you just stop talking.
I hope you actually...
Okay. So, fine, I'll be right wing now. So that's evidence that he's right wing. I'm going to explain if you stop interrupting me. I'm writing this down because you guys are saying I'm not tracking the arguments. I think I'm tracking them just fine.
Explain.
I will.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay. Can you be quiet? Well, I do.
My mic is down.
Okay, good.
Stop filibustering.
So it's convenient to you in exactly the way that you've demonstrated throughout this conversation, where when I make a good point about anything, you say, you conservatives, and then you pivot to talking about Republicans in America.
Okay. You are calling me conservative to dismiss my arguments. And does anybody think that's untrue? Like, I don't see center right as an invective. If you call me center right, I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, that's what I was shooting for. But to this guy, being called center right is an invective because he thinks that it's used rhetorically to dismiss what he says. Are we tracking so far?
Okay, because it suits you, because then you can argue against things you came here prepared to argue against.
Okay. So you can argumentatively go down a dialogue tree, which I don't believe, by the way. I don't believe this. I think Steven is comfortable on almost any ground. I don't think he has to do a dialogue tree. I think he's just bored. I think that's the main thing. I think Steven, like me, if I like to yap, if I like to go on monologues, I think he just truly gets bored of listening to someone for more than 20 seconds.
Instead of arguing with what I'm actually saying.
What is a point you feel like I haven't? First of all, I'm pretty sure the debate topics were related to America.
Okay, so hold on. So hold on. Let's rewind that because that's the question that we're arguing whether or not we're tracking here.
What I'm actually saying.
What is a point you feel like I haven't? First of all, I'm pretty sure the debate topic.
What's a point that I haven't? I'm gonna assume address. What's a point I haven't addressed? And I would say, if I was Konstantin Kisin, that you didn't address that the UK increased 20% in population in 35 years, the largest demo growth in 2,000 years. Now, we addressed it, okay? As a chat, we addressed it because we said, okay, yeah, 12 million people in 35 years is a lot, but it's a 20% increase in population. And if you look at the Danish invasion, the Anglo-Saxon invasion, the Norman invasion, were all comparatively substantial increases in population growth. Okay, so you and me, because my chat is made out of 3,000 IQ gigachats and gigastacies, we addressed it, but the way Destiny dismissed it is he said, when have we had like social stability? That's kind of the way. I wouldn't say he addressed it. I would say he dismissed it. But just Julius, if you think that's addressing the argument, then fine. I'll take it. Now, the other part was national identity. This was around the definition of culture. And with national identity, when Stephen asked him to identify culture, Konstantin Kisin said that culture is the thing that is continuous. And then Stephen said, what is continuous over time? And then they got lost in the weeds because Konstantin Kisin is too much of a pussy to say, I like Christianity and Judaism and Western secularism more than I like Muslims, right? He was too big of a pussy to say it. So Kisin implies, I'll put implies because I do think he was being a pussy argumentatively, that Western, because I think he's Jewish, isn't he? Western Judeo-Christian secular culture is opposed to mass Muslim immigration. And then Destiny says, well, don't white people rape too? Lol. Then Kissin says the RAF got in trouble for anti-white policies. Sorry, I'm writing these things down. And then Destiny said, lol, laugh my fucking ass off. I don't believe you. And your article is gay. Okay? So you can say that Destiny addressed the increase in social, the 20% increase in population over 35 years. He addressed that by saying, when have we ever had social stability? And then you can also say that he addressed Konstantin Kissin when he said that culture is a thing that is continuous over time. And then he says, well, what has been continuous over time? And I brought up examples for you. Kissin didn't do it because he's not ballsy enough to say Judeo-Christian, Western, secular values are supreme to Islamist mass Muslim immigration, and I don't like Muslims, right? Or I don't like hardcore Muslims, and I don't like mass immigration. And then, as an example, he brought up the rapes, and then Destiny was like, lol, rapes happen all the time, you're a pussy, which doesn't feel like a substantive argument. And then he brought up anti-white racism in the Royal Air Force, and then Destiny called him a loser and didn't believe his article. So yeah, like I think that Konstantin Kissin can feel like his arguments aren't being sufficiently addressed because Destiny is saying that he doesn't even believe in Kissin's arguments.
Were related to America. Number one.
Were they?
They were. Number one. That's okay. Number two, what is a question that you feel like you've said that I accused you of being a conservative and then I pivoted and I didn't respond to your point?
Every single thing we've discussed.
Name one of them then.
Every single thing we've discussed.
So you can't
Immigration.
All right, hold on.
Respond to your point.
Every single.
You've said. They were. Number one. That's okay. Number two, what is a question that you feel like... Number one.
Were they?
I haven't. First of all, I'm pretty sure the debate topics were related to America. Number one.
Were they?
They were. Number one. That's okay.
It was America and the UK, but yeah, continue. They kept it in the context of UK probably because that's advantageous to Konstantin. But I think I do remember them saying the prompt, one of the prompts was the US and UK because they were talking about mass immigration. They were talking about mass immigration to the United States and its context for national identity.
Number two, what is a question that you feel like you've said that I accused you of being a conservative and then I pivoted and I didn't respond to your point?
Every single thing we've...
Okay. So I accused you of being a conservative and I didn't address what you said. I think that Stephen has not addressed what he said. He's dismissed what he said. And there's a difference, okay? Because addressing would be, for instance, we've done this because we're 3,000 IQ. Addressing the arguments would be, well, yeah, that is a lot of immigration. Increasing your population by 20% in 35 years is a lot. But England has always been a plural society. The United Kingdom has always been a plural society. They conquered the Scots. They conquered the Welsh. They conquered the Irish. They conquered India. They conquered Pakistan before Pakistan existed. They conquered, you know, the British Virgin Islands. And so there's always been these people who were a part of the British Empire. And then not only were they a part of the British Empire, many of them were British citizens. And then many of them moved to the heart of the empire during the imperial reign. And then that's only increased with recent technology. So if a majority of the people who are immigrating to the United Kingdom are either former British subjects or Eastern Europeans with whom you've shared a continent, how is that a threat to national identity? That would be addressing the argument, not just saying, well, immigration happens all the time, bro. Do you understand how those arguments are substantially different? I hope you do. Then, just dismissing the concept of culture being continuous, this is one of the laziest series of argumentation that Destiny has held on to for the past 5 or 10 years. He's done it with, he did that all the way back in 2017 with Lauren Southern. I remember back when Lauren Southern and Sargon of Akkad and Nick Fuentes were debating Destiny online, he used the same argumentation where he said, well, America isn't a monoculture. There's a myriad of cultures across the United States. And also they've been evolving the entire time. So who are you to say that we must preserve elements of our culture to be continuous? But effectively, that's not taking on face value that there are such things as continuous cultures, and maybe they should be preserved. So, like I've brought up previously, republicanism is a tradition that stretches back through the Roman Republic and arguably into like Athenian democracy. So yes, many things have changed, including the Roman Republic itself, but republicanism itself is arguably a 2,500-year-old concept. Then, same thing with like language. English has been the spoken language of the United Kingdom for hundreds of years, right? Old English sounds different than modern English, and they were probably speaking some variant of English 1,000 years ago. But modern English has probably been around for the past 200 or 300 years. Well, if it's all arbitrary and culture just fluxes all the time, why have a border? Why don't we just let all the Hispanics in? And why don't we all learn to speak Spanish? Because who gives a fuck? Right? That's not addressing the problem. That's dismissing the problem. And then same thing with the RAF was being racist against whites. He says, oh, I don't believe you. Your article is shit. That's not addressing the argument. He said, oh, yeah, that's bad. It's bad. What do you want me to say? So you guys can be pissed and you can hate Kissin and you can think that Destiny is stomping him. Destiny, to be clear, is dominating the conversation and making Konstantin Kissin look pusillanimous. However, that doesn't mean that Konstantin Kissin can't correctly feel at this point in the conversation that his line of argumentation is not being contended with. It's being dismissed. And then he's not bringing up he's a conservative because he's trying to have a good faith dialectic about the nature of political tribalism and the philosophy of Edmund Burke, but because he wants to dismiss him as a right-wing dick sucker and pretending otherwise is cope. So fuck you, chat. Speaking of which, I love you. Parasocially. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. You guys have been incredibly generous today. I'm going to read the super chats and then we're going to keep it moving.
Name one of them then. Every single thing we've discussed.
So you can't think of a single one. What did I not respond to for immigration? You didn't bring up a point. You said a bunch of descriptions. You're like, well, this is true. And then that was it.
You keep talking over me, which means we're not actually having a discussion.
Because I'm asking you for an example and you're trying to filibuster.
I'm about to give you one if you just stop interrupting.
One point that I didn't respond to.
Can you just stop interrupting?
Go ahead. Give me the point.
Can you just stop interrupting?
I'm not even interrupting. I'm waiting for you to finish.
Not interrupting means when I say something, you don't talk after that. Can you do that now?
Okay. Can I forget? Okay, go ahead.
There you go. On every single thing that we've discussed, immigration, national identity.
Just one thing. You're not having a conversation. I guess I didn't expect you to check out this early, but I'm asking, is there a single point that you feel like I haven't responded to with substance, and you're saying everything because you realize you don't have an answer for that?
If you want to have this conversation by yourself, you're welcome to. But
I feel like I am.
Just so we're clear, do you acknowledge that that Konstantin's OG claim that the UK's Air Force was a misrepresentation and Destiny's attack that pointed at being a lie and thus dismissed it? Why was it a lie? Please articulate how it was a lie. I'll pull up the article if I need to. But if the Royal Air Force was dismissing white candidates because they had to hit certain racial quotas, how is that a lie? You understand that many liberals don't like affirmative action. Like many classic liberals, they don't like affirmative action because they think it fucks with the equality of opportunity that we are all entitled to as individuals, that they don't like the racial tribalism that weighs people's fates based off of ethno-religious economic characteristics.
You are, yeah.
I know I am. Yes, I know I am. I feel that way. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the copy-pasted talking points and I can't get an actual answer out of you for anything. I can give you better answers if you're looking for them. Yeah. It's crazy to me that you guys cry about wokeism and snowflakes and all this stuff so much, but like, you guys do it all the time. You made the claim that I'm avoiding answering any of your arguments because I'm calling you a conservative. I think you are a conservative and I labels you as such, but I'm not dodging your arguments. There's not a point you brought up that I refuse to address. That's why I asked.
Unork is saying that I credited Fashion 40 but then read Fashion 40's. Unork says, Connor, kissing by your admission isn't substantive. I addressed that. Oh, that's Fashion 40. Ha ha ha. Unork says, if he was gay, he would be constantly kissing boys. I thought you wanted me to scroll up for something substantive, and you called Konstantin constantly kissing boys. Bruh, if I ever meet Konstantin Kissin, I'm calling him that to his fucking face. Okay. You guys want me to pull up the Royal Air Force article? I'm gonna kill myself, but okay, let's read it anyways.
For an example of one, and you weren't able to give one, and that's fine if you're not able to give one, but then don't continue to filibuster and make the claim. Just say, okay, well, I guess maybe that was an unfair thing I said, and here's a point that I'm going to make that I would like you to address. That would be the time where you would say, here's a thing that I brought up, you pivoted and you didn't address that particular thing. That would be a thing you could do if I was actually dodging and pivoting from all your points.
All right, let's read it. Oh, Royal Air Force unlawfully discriminated against white males recruits in bid to boost diversity, inquiry finds. The Royal Air Force unlawfully discriminated against white men in a recruitment drive aimed at boosting diversity, and official inquiry is found. Air Force Marshal Sir Richard Knighton, the new head of the RAF, said he apologized unreservedly to all those affected, including the former head of recruitment, who was forced to resign. Excuse me, let's open that up, because I have a feeling that they're the one who probably said the spicy quote, rather than implement an order she believed correctly to breach equality legislation. Oh, that's the one who quit. Despite the damning findings, the chief of the air staff said that none of the RAF senior leadership, including his predecessor, Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wigston, on whose watch this happened, would face any kind of sanction. Instead, he blamed the debacle on legal advice that incorrectly said a push in 2020 to 2021 to fast-track ethnic minority and female recruits into training slots was positive action, which is a legal way to improve diversity, when it was actually positive discrimination, which is unlawful. We accept that some men were discriminated against, Air Chief Marshal Knighton said. 31 men have already been identified as having missed out on a potential $5,000 golden handshake to start cyber roles in the RAF. So I'm sorry, what's he wrong about? What was he wrong about? Wasn't the contention that white men were being discriminated against? Well, first you need to know what Konstantin was claiming. Wasn't he claiming that fucking white people were being discriminated against and they were pissed off about it? What do you know Konstantin fucking lied? What did he lie about? What? Let me write down the statements. I will write down both statements. You tell me what Konstantin said. I will write down the RAF discriminated against white pilots. That is what that news story is saying. Against white pilots for jobs. What did Konstantin say? Tell me. Direct quotes. Put it in quotations. You're pissing me off. Tell me. Direct quotes. Give me a direct quote. Tell me what Konstantin Kissin said from your worldview. One email doesn't equate to the entire British Royal Air Force. Who gives a fuck? He was saying that the 2020-2021 hiring drive, well, I mean, actually, that's the article. The article said that they illegally did that, but the push was obviously in order to discriminate against white men. The convo was about woke policies. That's not a direct quote from fucking Konstantin Kissin. And by the way, motherfucker, the RAF discriminated against white male pilots for jobs is the thrust of the claim. And that claim has been verified by the article that we just read. So tell me, he was claiming there was a policy against hiring white men. That's what fucking happened. That's what they said. They said the original intent of the policy was to fast track recruitment for women and minorities. But what ended up happening, because that's like based off of what I read in the article, that's an affirmative position. But the RAF, through its own execution of this policy, identified 31 white male applicants who were passed over for the slots. Just Julius, the RAF isn't hiring straight white men. There's 31 males, white males, who are identified who were not hired for cushy jobs because they were passed over due to the diversity initiative. He said pilots? Way to miss the forest for the trees, Fashion 40. You're fucking better than that. Oh, because it's a cybersecurity role and instead it was pilots, that changes the argument? It's not a policy, Connor, reread it. No. That wasn't the intent of the policy. The intent of the policy was to reserve those slots for women in POC. And so they were supposed to hire the ones that they could get. But what they did is they pushed the white straight men away despite the fact that they were qualified. God forbid the RAF get a little motion. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Fuck all of you. Royal Air Force discrimination, useless white men. And by the way, I'm pretty sure it is in the 30s. You said it's 13. Are you lying or are you just incorrect? 31 men have been identified as missing out on a potential $35,000 golden handshake. So it's 31, not 13. You have dyslexia, by the way. Go get documented. Like the white men were not as qualified? I don't fucking know. I don't give a shit. Do you understand that 31 white men were qualified for a job? They were passed over for women in POC, and white men might be pissed about it. That's the thrust of the point. So now you guys are arguing details of it instead of just saying 31 missed out on $5,000. Dude, it's seriously, it's the argumentation that it's not happening cycle. It's not happening meme. This is it. This is what you guys are doing. It's not happening. It's a right-wing conspiracy theory. It might be happening. It's good that it's happening. Okay, I hate all of you. Okay, I hate all of you. Okay, that's fine. Back to the content. Pick up your dicks. Pick up your dicks. It's content time.
What was that? I can't hear any of you. You're going to have to shout louder. Russian agent. What does that mean? So you're saying that because I'm from Russia and I have opinions you don't like, I'm a Russian agent?
Why are we debating the crowd right now? I'm still here.
Can
you really not answer my questions that much?
I'm just not very clear. Is that what you're saying?
Let's not yell out questions from the audience. Let's not get into that. Let's try to let the dialectic get back on track here.
Simple.
Yeah, Destiny, shut the fuck up so you can have a real conversation.
Question. What do you feel like I haven't addressed?
Every single thing that we've discussed.
Okay, let's run it down. So you said I didn't address immigration, right? My point on immigration is that you guys have fear-mongered about immigration, and every single policy that you've tried to enact has failed.
Every time you say you guys...
I don't even think he made that argument earlier, but that's okay. Keep going.
You've already lost the argument because you're not arguing with me.
Okay, well, I asked you for a clear stance on whether or not you thought Brexit was good on net. You literally said you would not answer the Brexit question. When I asked if you were God, you could push a button. You literally said, "Oh, I don't know. I couldn't do that."
I said immigration. Immigration, no, not Brexit. Immigration.
Sure. Well, Brexit was a part of the immigration argument, right?
Not for me.
For the majority of the... Oh, my God. I'm sorry. It's okay. What question do you even pose to me with regards to immigration that you feel like I didn't answer? I don't think you even...
I would say that Destiny dismissed that a national identity is something that is continuous, or a culture is identifiable as something continuous, and therefore we should not be alarmed by a 20% increase in the population over 35 years.
Posed a question to me.
what you failed to do, we started this bit of the just listen, okay? Just put the microphone down and listen.
I'm listening.
Put the microphone down for a moment and listen.
I'm going to hold it right here.
Now you carry on. I'm not going to talk if you keep interrupting me. I'm not interested in
I'm
this.
not interrupting
whatever
you.
this is. You are.
I'm literally not. I'm asking you a question. You just refuse to answer. This is the game. How did I do it again? I'm asking you a clear question. You can't give me an answer.
I'm not going to talk to you unless you listen to what I'm saying as well as me listening to what you're saying.
I am listening.
Okay, good. So we started this bit of the conversation, right? Talking about the exchange that we just had. That's what we were talking about, right? And you made your points, and I tried to make my points, and you keep interrupting and talking over me, right? I've addressed immigration, and I've addressed every single other thing that you brought up. And the moment I do, what you do is you say, well, you conservatives say this, you conservatives say that, in order that you can then argue with things that I haven't said. And that is exactly what you've done throughout this whole thing. So when you ask me, why do people say that you're a conservative? It's because it's much more convenient for them than addressing the arguments that I'm actually making. And you've demonstrated that throughout this entire discussion. That answers your question.
Okay, what is the argument that you're making with specificity to immigration? What does...
Kai says, what is the continuous thing, though? Depends on the culture that you're talking about. If you're talking about the Marine Corps, I would say it's alcoholism, fighting wars, accepting casualties, bad gear, amazing logistics, and bloodthirst. Those are the continuous things of the Marine Corps. If you went and talked to a Marine about those concepts in 1790, and then if you talk to a Marine in 2026, those would be the same things. Okay? Now, obviously, what's changed is technology. Eating crayons. As soon as crayons existed, we started eating crayons. It's been a huge part of our culture for a really long time. So, those are continuous. But obviously, what's different is the weapons, the uniforms, the training, the boot camp, the physical fitness, the combat training, the martial arts, the classroom classes, all that, illiteracy. Yes, correct. There's a ton of things that the Marine Corps has done for the past 250 years that are consistent. And then there's a ton of things in the Marine Corps that have changed. But the reason why it's considered a continuous culture is because the half dozen to a dozen things that I identified are continuous throughout. And then if you look at like Northern Europeans, then you could probably identify half a dozen to a dozen things, depending on the ethno-religious group that you're talking about, that have been continuous for centuries, if not millennia. You understand that like Christianity has been around arguably since 0 AD or 20 AD, whenever they started as a cult. But then the Eastern Roman Empire and Western Roman Empire were converting to Christianity en masse as early as the 500s, and we all have Christianity as a cultural touchstone today, where our culture is seeped in the narratives of Christianity. And then, like I said, I already brought up republicanism. Republicanism is arguably a 2,500-year-old idea. So you, if you're not a historically illiterate dipshit, could identify the things that have changed and the things that have remained the same. And you don't even have to ask me. But because it's more convenient, this is what's really happening, by the way. Matter of fact, I'm so happy I just thought of this. This is what's really happening. You guys aren't asking me what's at the core of our culture that hasn't changed in decades or millennia, because you're actually concerned with historically what's changed. What you want to say is culture is an amorphous blob, so we can accept unlimited Muslims from the Middle East and North Africa, and it's not a big deal. That's what you're really saying. You're saying a 20% increase in population from the Middle East and North Africa? Who gives a fuck? They're all human. You guys are the ultimate liberals, which is totally fine, but just stop being like simultaneously ignorant and smug. You know, like you're like, what's continuous about culture? But you're not really asking what's continuous about culture. What you're saying is, Islam doesn't have that big of a grip or difference between Christianity. You don't even like Christian theocrats, so you don't like Muslim theocrats otherwise. So realistically, let's just take unlimited Muslims, because who gives a fuck? And they're all human beings, and 99% of them are decent people, and they make good food. So a 20% increase in population from a different part of the world, you know, I don't give a fuck about. That's what you're really saying. Let's be real. Christian Blair says, I wish Konstantin was smart enough to make the point you made for him. True. And you know what Konstantin is saying? Konstantin is saying, I'm scared. Okay? He's saying, I'm scared of their religiosity. I'm scared of jihadist terrorism. I'm scared of the way they treat their women. I'm scared of the way that they treat our women. And therefore, I want the cool Muslims, but ideally I want as few Muslims as possible. And if I have to be around Muslims, then I only want the cool ones. That, you know what? I'm going to write that down because that's really what's going on. Like, libs are saying most Muslims are cool. Most Mexicans are cool. So who cares? And then conservatives are saying there's danger in the world. And there's dangerous Muslims and Mexicans who are bad hombres. And I don't want unlimited Muslims and Mexicans around me. Hold on, still writing it down. And if we take any, they have to be the cool ones. That's literally it. This is the entirety of the argument. This is it. Okay? Liberals and progressives say most Muslims and most Mexicans are cool, so who gives a fuck? And then conservatives say there's danger in the world and there's dangerous Muslims and Mexicans, and I don't want unlimited Muslims and Mexicans around me. And if we take any Mexicans or Muslims, I want them to be the cool ones. That's it. That's it. That I've just solved immigration. Those are the two sides. Okay? So now what? Now what do we do? I also don't want unlimited Christian fundamentalists around me. Well, most of them are your citizens. And we're not mass importing Russian Orthodox Christians, so. Kai says, do you see how you were able to define marine culture in under a minute and Kissen has failed to do so, the British culture, in an hour of conversation? For sure. For sure. I think that the problem, the ease with which I identify American civic continuous identity is because we're a propositional nation. And I think I can identify the Marine Corps because I lived and breathed it for fucking years of my life. Right? So that's where, for me, it's easy to articulate, but maybe he's a pussy. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe Konstantin Kissen is a pussy? Maybe he just doesn't want to say the hard shit. Maybe he just wants to say, hey, I like cool Muslims, but realistically, Muslims freak me the fuck out, so I don't want unlimited Muslims in my country. And then he gets called Islamophobic. And in the United States, being Islamophobic isn't a crime, so I can be as Islamophobic as I fucking want to be. Which is like moderately. Like I have like 3 or 4 Muslim friends, and I like them, and I think they're cool. But in the UK, if you're Islamophobic and you promote hate, you can be incarcerated. So maybe he has to be more cagey about his Islamophobia. Real Serious is, I guess the question, for example, is, does the U.S. have more in common with the U.S. in the 1800s or more in common with Mexico now? Not to win any argument, I just think that's a salient point. I weirdly think we're probably right in the middle. I think we're right in the middle. I think in the next 50 to 100 years, we will be more like Mexico, hopefully in a good way, than we are like colonial 19th century America. That's a great question, Real Serious. I actually appreciate you for that one. So why the hell is a Russian now the mouthpiece for English Western grievance? Because he's a good immigrant. And he's scared of bad immigrants. Okay? He wants Judeo-Christian, Western, secular, liberal, mixed economy capitalism, and the Muslims bring leftist sympathizing theocracy, and he doesn't like left-wing sympathizing theocracy. It's really that. You can say you don't like Islam or Muslims in the UK. It's completely protected. Okay, good. Then Konstantin Kisin is just being a pussy. So just own your shit. Just own your shit. Just be like, yeah, I don't like unlimited Muslims to the UK. I'm scared of them. They're scary people. I don't like their hats. I don't like their music. I don't like their call to prayer. And I'm scared of the Muzzies. The Muzzies are scary. But boom, there you go. End of conversation. And then we can just talk about like how scary the Muzzies are and what a sane immigration policy is. Yeah. Archinox with the 200 Czech dollars about the immigration problem in Europe. Until these guys come up with another plausible aging population solution, it's kind of void, of course. I'm all for filtering out criminals. We are incapable to even talk about that. Correct, Archinox. And that's the other thing, is the technocrats at the heads of our societies have said the mixed economy capitalist model is reliant on perpetual growth, so we need immigrants in order to prop up our social welfare systems, or else this entire thing implodes. And they just didn't tell white people about it. The Melody says, just scared white people again. You're allowed to be scared if there's real danger, Melody. Like, I could pull up cartels chopping people's heads off with fucking chainsaws and melting people in 55-gallon metal barrels. That's scary. If you're not scared of that, you're kind of a fucking retard, right? And then same thing with Muslims. I could pull up Muslims beheading people with dull fucking knives. Did you not watch during ISIS when they took a bunch of 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and they handed them pistols and they fucking had them shoot Jordanian fighter pilots in the face? Did you not watch when a bunch of women were put in a cage and they were drowned because they refused to have sex with ISIS members? There's scary fucking people on the planet. And if you don't think that there's scary fucking people, you're kind of a fucking retard. God damn. Like you guys are like, no, I've lived a sheltered life, therefore nothing scary happens fucking ever. Ugh. It's so fucking dumb. Black widow spiders can be scary, and 2 or 3 people die from black widow spiders every single year. Probably because they're dumb like you, Melody. They just go around in the fucking woods and they're like, what are the chances? Ha ha ha! I'm gonna bitch slap this black widow because what are the chances that I'm the dumbass that dies from a black widow? That's you. Yeah, Connor, it'd be great if there was a country they could come to where none of that was happening, though, huh? Yeah, but I don't... But arguably, they're the ones who are causing it. You understand that, right? Like, jihadism is a component of Islam, and Islamism is a component of Islam, and jihadist terrorism, while absolutely, like, fueled by American and Western geopolitics, is also, like, a cultural reaction that is, like, nascent in Islamism, right? You understand it correlates even if it's not caused. Just became racist, it's no big deal. Good. The left tends to ignore problems in order to look compassionate or be the subversive to the right until it spirals and causes huge problems, and then they want prescriptions from the right to fix it. They don't even want the prescriptions. They just want to pretend it doesn't happen. Hashtag not all spiders. True. All right, sorry, back to the content. I just got pissy, so I just, I needed to yell at my chat for a second.
Konstantin's ideal immigration policy for Great Britain look like? And who in the past have you supported?
Only the good Muslims.
Their vision for immigration to the United Kingdom.
Sorry.
Is the issue mostly around assimilation? Absolutely, Oceanist. As I quoted the fantastic movie Full Metal Jacket earlier today, inside every gook is an American waiting to come out.
Because I jumped in, which I shouldn't have done. Second part.
Me. Okay.
Second part.
Yeah. No, who have you supported historically over the past 10 years? Whose idea for immigration, I guess, have you supported policy-wise, politician-wise? Who would you support right now?
Common Cure says the last recorded person to die from a black widow was in 1983. It's about to happen again in 2026. I'm gonna get so many fucking black widow spiders. I'm gonna like birth. I'm gonna have like a billion black widow spiders that I'm gonna breed in my household, and then I'm going to release them in Melodie's house.